The playtime. A movie is 2 hours, but a role-playing game like Final Fantasy is at least 40 hours of material. So the number of pieces of music needed is really enormous. It's always daunting.
He completely breaks the mold. He's not doing like the ice level music. Here's a guy that just pours emotion into his music.
Also, I have to predict what the player will be feeling. Unlike a movie where the audience has a story played out in front of them, in the case of games, the player decides. I think I'll go to this town, or no, maybe not.
And when the soundtrack to Final Fantasy VII is released on CD, the results are stunning.
The Final Fantasy VII soundtrack, there is no video game soundtrack in the world that has sold more copies than the Final Fantasy VII soundtrack. He's right up there with Madonna and Britney Spears over in Japan. When this guy comes out with the soundtrack, people are listening.
Just when gamers think it can't get any better, in 1999, Uematsu creates another incredible soundtrack for Final Fantasy VIII.
And then Final Fantasy VIII comes out, and I'm like, oh my God, the opening cinematic, and I'm like, I got goosebumps going on.
Having a huge chorus had always been something that inspired me. It just amazes me. It is a big difference than just using instruments.
Final Fantasy VIII is probably my personal favorite.
And for the first time, Uematsu teams up with Asian pop icon Faye Wong for the song Eyes on Me. The single wins Song of the Year at the 14th Annual Japan Gold Disc Awards in 1999. It is the first time music from a video game wins this award.
Once in a while, I will go to a CD store and I'll hear Eyes on Me playing in the background. I start thinking, oh, that's such a familiar tune. I remember listening to that song a long time ago. And then it will dawn on me, oh yeah, I wrote that music. The fact that Eyes on Me gets played all over the place, it's one piece that I'm happy about.
In 2000, Final Fantasy IX is released. Uematsu composes 160 pieces of music for the new sequel. Nobuo also expands beyond games. He writes the theme song for the anime series Ah, My Goddess, and even contributes to albums by Japanese pop stars. But has the talented composer reached the peak of his fame? The year is 2001, and Final Fantasy X is out for the PlayStation 2. In less than 3 months, more than 1 million copies of Final Fantasy X are sold. And once again, the new hardware enables Uematsu to expand his art even further. For a change of pace, he writes a heavy metal piece that surprises some gamers.
When I first saw Final Fantasy X, I was blown away. I'm like, it's a rock video. Death metal. That's cool. That was so different from typical Final Fantasy titles because normally we have a very orchestral kind of background music. But it's so much fun with this hard rocking, soundtrack.
I just wanted to create something that is obviously different, to match up with the sequence.
On May 28th of the same year, Nobuo Uematsu makes it into Time Magazine's feature, Time 100, The Next Wave Innovators. A year later, Nobuo's latest work appears in Final Fantasy XI. And in 2004, Uematsu's music is finally heard live in the U.S. at the Dear Friends concert held at the Walt Disney Concert Hall.
We've already done similar performances and had concerts in Japan, but this is going to be our first outside of Japan. And I guess the main thing that I want to see is the reaction of the audience in the States. I've never seen that, so that's going to be something I really want to take home with me. And hopefully this is going to serve as a kickoff to other shows.
The show sells out in one day.
When I heard the good news, I was in Tokyo, and I was in disbelief. I couldn't believe it. I was very surprised and very shocked. At the same time, I was very happy. I was curious to see why it sold out so quickly.
Today, Nobuo's work is legendary, and the Final Fantasy franchise has sold more than 49 million games around the world.
Something that's always been present with the Final Fantasy series is that it has a very well-rounded musical score.
The music is so great in Final Fantasy that immediately when you turn on a Final Fantasy game, you hear the soundtrack rolling into your speakers and you know you're in for a big, big adventure.
But the composer from Kochi remains humble.
To me, creating the music for the Final Fantasy series is something I just do. Not just as a living, but because I just like to create music.
And he hopes that his music will help bridge the gap between game music and film music.
I think it's going to arrive there. The games are played by kids, but when the kids grow up, games will be played by parents too. When we get to that point, games will be lined up on the same shelves as TV and the movies. And the difference between game music and other music will probably disappear.
And until that day, Uematsu will continue to raise the bar for music in gaming.
There are people who work best under pressure, and those who can push aside the pressure and create something nice. I probably fall under both of those categories. Lately, I think it's the relaxed, unstrained music, as opposed to the forced music, that comes naturally. I think that's what makes it brilliant. Not that I'm totally brilliant, just that I want to become so.
There's about 500 people in the world who do what we do, music composition. And I would have to say that Nobuo Uematsu's music is the best of the best. And his music being known all over the world, he is number one. Absolutely.